Hello, welcome to yet another live stream. It's the third one, 3 weeks in a row. Absolutely new record. Thank you for joining, both of you. I have a couple of topics for today, and then just send me your questions. So if you have some, fiery, skeptical, already sent one. So if you have anything, please let me know, and I will try to answer them. Can be anything about Japan. Is of course related to the channel, but essentially anything. So life, Japan, language learning, IT, martial arts, anything. Just ask me anything. So today we have this thumbnail, which is good to see you again as well. Thank you. Today we have this thumbnail, which is the sandals, Zodi maybe. And I took this in 2016 when I just moved to Japan. So I went for a trip with a couple of friends, and we went to Kyoto to the Gion Matsuri. And there they had super large floats, like how large are they? Like taller than 10 meters. So floats, and a lot of people carrying them on ropes, essentially like tug of war, but only with floats. So they pulled them. And actually, they are not that high. They're like 5 meters-ish, or 6, 7 maybe, and then they have a super long antenna-like thing on the top. Anyway, they pull them, and the people pulling them have jimbe, that's like traditional Japanese summer clothing, and they have this zori, which is just rice straw sandals. And this picture in the thumbnail was one of them. So pretty one of almost barefoot, or no, almost in socks on the streets. And I liked it, so there's no particular reason why I chose it for this live stream. I never published it on Instagram, even though I wanted to, but so far I didn't. So now it's the thumbnail of this live stream, which I liked. Then another thing is I got a new piece of gear, and it is, wait a second, this gimbal. So this is an electric stabilizer. Let me turn it on. So essentially, it keeps the camera in place, so I can move this and the camera stays steady and follows only certain motions that I want it to follow, and it does so smoothly. So I can do like this, and it will adjust nicely, so I can hopefully take a little bit more high quality panning, moving shots and so on. And it's also easier for me to do dolly-like shots. That's like if I move forward, for example, into a room or so. I imagine I bring this not every time with me because it's heavy and big, so very attention grabbing, but I think if I'm allowed to film somewhere, if I have permission or am invited, then this is a very good tool. And for a gimbal, I think it's not so heavy. It has the option to take this thing here off, and wait a second, put it up here, so then it can be carried like this. Oops. Off. That's why it can be carried like this as well, which might make it easier, and also makes it easier to take low shots. So much about that. I don't know if you're actually interested in that, maybe not. And then the next topic, we were actually planning. Yeah, I know. When I first saw gimbal, it was like, I think it was Casey Neistat got a drone from GoPro. If you remember that, they made a drone once, and it had a gimbal with a GoPro on it, and I thought, wow, that's so amazing. I want that. And ever since then, I wanted one, and now finally I have one. Actually, I have another one too, but it's for a phone. I bought them in 2017 for phone, and I used it exactly twice. And the reason is, usually when I use my phone, that's because I'm shooting, like, I didn't prepare, essentially. So I didn't bring a gimbal or a camera, so I take my phone. So essentially, I never use it if I use my phone. And if I would bring it, then I would use the camera because the image is so much better. And that's why I bought one, even though I'm not using the one for the phone. That's that. So, and then we planned to go to Nagano today because my older one's kindergarten is now in the summer holidays. So we want to go back, then I would work from there, maybe take a couple of more videos of the area. But now the older one got like a dry coughing, So we are not. We didn't want to take the risk because my mother-in-law, who's living in Nagano, is in her late 60s, so she's in like the risk group for Corona. So we will wait a little bit longer and see how it develops, and then if everything is okay, then we go. So maybe next Sunday the stream will be a little bit earlier and then outside somewhere in Nagano. Because if I'm there, then I cannot film inside essentially if my family is at home. But today it's still here, as you can see. Then this week I had 2 new videos out. The first one was What is Japan? A short one, essentially explaining how why English-speaking countries use the word Japan. In Germany we use Japan, which is the exact same spelling, but Japan uses Nippon or Nihon, which is totally different, right? It sounds different, it's written differently. That was explained in that video. And then there was another one that is Matsumoto Castle, which is one of Japan's last original castles, and the second best on a curated list of 3 great castles. First one is Himeji, second Matsumoto, and third Kumamoto. This was out, but only for Patreons. So right now I have exactly 1 Patreon, which is great, which is 1 more than I expected. And for this Patreon, essentially, is this video right now. And of course, for everybody joining in the future. I wanted to do another video as well. I went outside with my action cam, this one here, that's the Osmo Pocket, put it on in front of my bike, and then I took a trip around the river, then across a bridge, up a mountain to a park. However, it didn't look so good. One, it always moved a little bit to the side, which I didn't like a lot. So I had to stop, put it back, and so on. So yeah, technically it wasn't the finest. And then also the weather was not so nice, but like a gray sky, but I like blue sky. So maybe tomorrow I will wake up early again, check how the weather is, and then maybe go outside and shoot the whole thing again and then upload it for you. Still not sure if I should do it like ASMR style, just driving there and essentially you enjoy. Maybe put some subtitles explaining the things or some comments. Not sure yet. So if you have an opinion, please let me know. ASMR or like a commented tour. And that's all I have to share for now. So then let's take a look at the questions. How much does a Nintendo Switch cost in Japan in yen? I did not know. I have a Switch. I never use it. My wife has a Switch. She and I never use it. And I had just went on Amazon to check that, and it's 42,980. So it's like $400. And then there's the Switch Lite, which is 29,000. So if you're like me and you use it alone and don't connect it to a TV, then probably 29,000 is enough. It's a Switch Lite, yeah. But other than that, it's always like 42, 43, 49 even, 1,000, and then it's a set or something like that. Supposed to be coming back to Japan at the end of October. Might reschedule for late April. Worried about Golden Week, but I think year Golden Week starts 1st of May. Next year's. How is weather in Tokyo in April? Essentially, my feeling is weather in Tokyo is always good compared to other parts of Japan. So depending on what you describe as good weather, it's not cold. That's what I want to say. So I lived in Nagano before, and there it was cold in winter and we had snow, and in Tokyo it's like, I think in the 3 years I've been here, it's always been 1 day of snow. One time was really a lot of snowfall, and we had got like 10 different emails at work. Please go home early. Trains will stop working. This was 1 day, and then the other years was just like, I went to my training, and when I went, it started snowing, and when I came back, it was gone. And in April, the weather is good. It's just after cherry blossom, or might still be there in the beginning of April, depends on the season, on the year. And cherry blossom essentially is the border between winter and spring. So it's really exciting always when they come finally. Usually then I walk to the train station instead of taking the bicycle, because it's so much more exciting to see it. And then after that, the spring starts. So when you're here in April, if you come in the end, you said, then you will not see the cherry blossom, but you will see spring, which is great. And then you can go north a little bit, maybe Tohoku, Yamagata, Iwate, Aomori, and then you would also see cherry blossoms if you're interested. And maybe that answers also your question about the golden. Oh no, golden. Golden is probably May. Yeah, I think this year was also May. I work at Golden Week, so I don't have it in my mental calendar. Would love to see driving videos, point of view in countryside of Japan. You mean driving by car, right? Could do that, maybe. I have to take my mother-in-law's car, or I take a bicycle. I thought about making this kind of video in Nagano. If we would have gone today, then I would have done it there. Yeah. Maybe I do both. Not sure yet. I think Nagano has more to give, because in Tokyo it's like you drive. That's why I'm thinking about this route, because it's close to a river, so you see a little bit, and across a bridge you see a little bit, then between houses, which might be interesting, and then uphill, and then there's a park, so you see a little more. But in Nagano, the houses are much lower, and there are mountains everywhere around them, around the city. So you get a lot more of like feeling, wow, that's so beautiful there. Are you a Naruto fan? No. I've never watched or read Naruto. My best friend, though, he has like all the manga. I think my wife also has, or at least had. Maybe she sold them when we went to Germany together. That was in 2015. At least I think she read all of them. I never did that. Generally, anime manga, not so much. So the only manga I have is One Punch Man. And for anime, I currently watch One Piece. That's like super non-weak. The current situation, Japanese economy is in recession. Well, where foreign workers stand, who wants to come to Japan in the future? So is the question, how the chances for coming to Japan as a foreign worker? Probably depends on the field you're working in. I think English teachers are still in high demand, because internationalization is still growing. Also in Japan, there are more tourists coming here. I mean, not now, obviously, but in the future there will. And we have the Olympics maybe coming next year. And generally, I think the demand for English teachers is high. Then IT, of course, is also a must, more and more. So if you're in IT like me, then you won't have an issue finding a job, even now, probably, if you're good. So I think there's less demand right now, but still it's a lot. So, for example, my company is still searching for a lot of people. Didn't change anything. But obviously I cannot comment on the whole economy, so I'm not a business scientist. Do you miss German food? Yes. What specifically? Schnitzel. Talked about it last week already. So schnitzel is like a thin, very thin meat of the calf, so the baby cow. And then it's put into flour, egg, and then breadcrumbs, and then it's fried in a pan. And that's really nice. I like that, except for the calf part. It's a little bit cruel, but I like schnitzel. And in Japan, they have something similar, which is called tonkatsu. But it's made, one, it's fried, stir-fried, not in the pan. And two, it's from pork. And three, the breadcrumbs are different. So in my mind, it tastes totally different. And it's really hard to get a schnitzel that's up to par with what you can get in Germany. I'm planning to come to Japan for my PhD. Oh, great. Study after that, I want to get a job in Japan. I see. Yeah, I think PhD, I have a colleague who did postgrad here, not a PhD, but some postgraduate program. I think he did an MBA, Master of Business, MBA, sorry, Master of Business Administration. And yeah, great. I mean, if you can do it in an already Japanese environment, then probably your language skill will will be good enough to be able to apply to most jobs a native would also be able to apply for. And if that's the case, I think you have pretty good chances, depending on your field, of course. I mean, if the field is needed in Japan, yes, great. Did you say when you're coming? No, not yet, right? How old is Japan? So that needs a little bit of definition. So I think the country, the island, I don't know. I don't know when the landmass that is Japan separated from the rest of the Asian plate. Maybe a million years, maybe less. And the country itself, it's also a little bit hard to say. So if you follow the emperor line lineage, then it's like 1000 before Christ or something like that, or 600. I think the first one was 600-ish before Christ. And yeah, that's that. Might be a good video to make. How old is Japan? And actually go into different definitions you could take to answer these questions and then into the details. Where's the best place for nightlife in Japan? I think Tokyo is the best place because it offers the most variety, but you don't stand out so much as a foreigner. So if you like that, then maybe somewhere else, more rural, is better. But I also like Osaka, I think. It's also good. That being said, I don't go out a lot. So I went because I'm married and have children. So I don't have, essentially being out all night is not within my possibilities. That being said, if you think about going out not as clubs or something, but bars and so on, I personally like Roppongi or Ebisu. So that's parts of Tokyo. In Roppongi, there are some areas where foreigners are very common, and then I wouldn't go there. So essentially, if the bouncer wants you to get into the club and shakes your hand and says, "Hey, friend," then don't go. Also, Kabukicho is very kind of notorious for like giving KO drops to foreigners, and then you wake up and have a credit card bill of $2,000-3,000. So don't do that. But if you find some nice bars in Shibuya, also probably Ebisu, Roppongi, yeah, like that. And in Osaka, there's the Doton Bodi. That's like a river going through the city, and if you walk around, next to the river, then you will probably find some nice establishments. Does referrals work in Japan? By referrals, now you mean, for example, for a job, as in, hey, I know this guy, how about hiring him? Depends on the place, I think. So companies do have like recruiting programs where they even pay employees. So if you recommend your friend and he gets employed, then you get like, I don't know, $10,000 or something. That's there, not in all companies, not in mine. But we also have this kind of program. That being said, it doesn't mean necessarily, depending on your position, so if I recommend somebody, they still have to go through the same process for the recruitment. So take all the interviews, take the resume screening, and so on. Then again, if you know like the CEO of a company and he wants to work with you, then probably it will work out, I guess. Have you ever met Muslim workers in Japan? If so, what do you think about them? Oh yeah, so especially from Pakistan, I think there are many people in my company. Yeah, I mean, I just think normal people, they do their work just like I do. I don't think different of people just because they are Muslims. I don't see any value in that. What's your favorite Japanese script? Script sounds like old, like what was that? The Tale of Genji or something. But I've never read any of that, Kojiki or so. I guess Kojiki would be at some point on my list if my Japanese is good enough. That's a little bit of methodology, like how the emperors are descendants of the sun goddess and things like that. And it's very Shinto, which I'm interested in. So probably at one point I will read that, but I have, if that's what you mean with script, like ancient Japanese writings, then I didn't read any of that, especially not in Japanese. I mean, in my early days when I didn't know any Japanese and I started studying martial arts, I read a lot of martial arts things like Hagakure and Book of the Five Rings, things like that. It's focused on Bushido and samurai living and swordmanship and so on. What's the average monthly salary in Japan? That depends where you are. I think countrywide is like 40,000 a month, a year, sorry, dollars a year. But depends. Again, if you make that money in the countryside, obviously it's nice. And if you live in Tokyo, you might have a tough time depending on what you expect. So if you work if you want to live in the city center in a big and nice apartment, then this is not gonna cut it. If you are okay with living a little bit outside, a little far from the station, in an old house, then probably 40,000 a year is okay. But depends. I think for beginners, obviously, it's lower. And IT, it might be higher. It definitely is higher. For English teaching, I think usually they begin like 250,000 to 280,000 yen per year, per month. That's like $2,500 to $2,800 before taxes. So not the greatest. However, in the first year, so in Japan, you have to pay residence tax, which is, depending on the area, like 10% or so. And however, in the first year, it always it is based on the previous year. So if you come to Japan and work for the first time, and you have never been here and worked here, then it's free. And then the next year you get it, and you have to pay. So I just received my updated thing. So first year could be okay with this amount of money, and then you have to level up. Otherwise, it won't be fun. But then again, it depends on what you are willing to work in, what kind of field or what you're targeting. So I think I would imagine IT is higher, maybe 60K or so, but nothing compared to America, to some areas in America. Is doing PhD from high-ranking university in Japan and having expeditional skills can fit you in any software company? No. So any software company generally not, because obviously that's specialized. And PhD again is something specialized, right? So it depends on what you are writing about in your thesis, what you're researching. So my personal image of PhDs is more into like algorithmic and so on problems. And we have a couple of these in our company, for example. Generally, I think if it's a high-ranking university, that's something nice, that's something good to have. At the very least, to get a highly skilled professional visa, because this will give you more points. And if you get this visa and you have 80 points or more, then you can get the permanent visa in only 1 year, which is good. Because then, for example, you can get cheaper loans if you want to buy a house and so on. Mortgage is what you say, mortgage. I'm not wasting my time building small projects, front end and back end, before applying for a job. I make sure to have proper skills. Also, I've reached JLPT 3. Great. Because COVID exams got cancelled. Oh, yeah. I know. I don't know if they are planning to do it again in December. I hope not, actually. At least not in Japan, because I think it's not the right time now. So currently, the cases are always like 400 plus or so in Tokyo and like more than 1,000 in Japan. I think it's more than Germany even. So not sure how it will be in December. I also had a friend who wanted to take N2, I think. And well, she couldn't do it. What is the possible options to be stationed in Japan while working for foreign company to study Japanese? It depends on the company. So there's a degree that's intra-country transferee, and it sends you somewhere. I have a couple of students, and when I teach Aikido, I have a couple of students that work in German companies that are sent here. And they usually, I think they come for 2 years and then 2 years again, and then they have to decide if they want to stay in Japan, and then they get a local contract, or if they if they want to go back. So if they stay and get a local contract, this will be much worse than a German contract. So lower salary and especially less holiday. So usually they go back. So to answer your question again, it depends on your company. Let me think if I know any company that split. I'm not sure. Well, if you apply somewhere, then probably you can do some research on the company, maybe find some people that did this, like this transfer. And of course, they need to have a subsidiary or the main branch in Japan. So, and if you can do that, that'll be very helpful. Then law from Pakistan, I see. Yeah, so like I said, 日本で一番いい都市で、biggest 一番いい。What is your field like, software engineering or like that? Yeah, essentially. So I started, for my current company, I started as a software architect, but now I'm in a management position. So essentially, my field was software engineering, and it still kind of is, but management is totally different. So it's a different job description, essentially. But let's see. I mean, so far it's okay for me. I got here late. No problem. Absolutely no problem. It's just 27 minutes in. Welcome, Vishak. Good to have you here. Actually, this time it's 30 minutes earlier than last time. So in comparison, you're early. When you're thinking, you say so. Yes, that's true. It's very easy to adapt. I think it's a little bit. So for some people, they develop this where they, especially non-English natives, they develop this mixing of Japanese and English, and more often than not, they don't speak Japanese well enough to actually be fluent. So, but they still do this mixing, and it's usually Japanese people, I think, love in a positive way about that. It makes them smile. And also yeah. So in Germany, we have, for example, we say aso, which is exactly similar to Japanese, albeit it doesn't come from the same source. Like it's not the same. Like for example, in Germany, we say to mom, we say mama, and in Japan, it's the same for the babies. And that's because it's the first things they say when they grow up. But for aso, it's different, but still it's used exactly the same way as well, interestingly. Have you seen people jump job to USA from Japan? I haven't. Oh yeah, I have actually. Yes, I have seen that. We had some case. And I have seen some Japanese company offer jobs in the US for the subsidiaries there. But obviously not me. How did you learn Japanese? Right. I can show you some books, but generally, I made a video about this some 3 months or so back. Currently, I'm using a method called MIA, that's mass immersion approach. So the idea is, so when I first started, I took it very, very slowly. So I did something that was called Total Japanese, using the Michelle Thomas method. That's something that sits you in a classroom environment. There are 2 other students and 1 teacher and 1 native. The teacher explains how it's used. The native says it correctly, and then the other students try to answer the questions. Essentially, you have a little space and answer it for yourself. And usually 1 student is really bad, so she will always be like below you, and the other one's really good, so he's usually above you, so you have some room. So if you're worse than the other one, then you know, oh shit, I have to focus more. And if you're better than the good person, then it's really great. And essentially, that's like very easy Japanese to get like a taste of the language and it's just talking, no writing, talking and listening. For me, it was helpful, I think, to kind of get not too bad at pronunciation from the get-go, because I actually listened a lot. And then I learned the kana, that's the phonetic syllables, which are very essential in Japanese and easy to learn. And I did that using a method called, wait a second, remembering the kana, which is essentially mnemonics. So you make pictures for the kana, for the different characters, and then you can easily remember them. And with this method, I did I think it was like 3 hours each, so each syllable. So together 6 hours or so for hiragana and katakana. And then I learned with this one, remembering the kanji, which is essentially the bigger brother for the Chinese characters, the kanji. This is the German version. And yeah, then I did the Genki books. Do I have them somewhere? I think I have them in a box. And that's all pretty basic. So Genki brings you to like JLPT and 4, and you can have some high, not very deep conversations. And you get a little bit of kanji if you want to learn it with that, which I didn't. But that's that. And then I kind of slacked off a little too much. When I started working in Tokyo, I focused a lot on my work. And then with this Corona thing, essentially there was a point also with me changing my career where I decided, okay, I really need to learn Japanese on a level where I'm really good. So I decided to go with this mass immersion approach, which essentially means you spend as much time as you can in Japanese. So you listen to a lot of Japanese, you read a lot of Japanese, and so on. And this book, Remembering the Kanji, is also the first step. So first you get all the kanji in, how they are written and what they mean. And then you learn essentially from your environment. You make flashcards for the words you're interested in. You don't actually make it on a word basis, but on a sentence basis. So you write a sentence where you know everything but the one new word. And then on the back side, in the beginning, you start with English and then how it's written in Japanese. And then going further, you just have Japanese. As you progress, you just have Japanese explanations on the back. And that's what I do right now. And then where was I? There, okay. I think that's a very rough outline, but maybe you want to check my video. And then the guy who outlined this MIA approach, this mass immersion approach, called Matt, has a channel called Matt versus Japan. He has a lot of great language learning advice. Maybe check that out as well. So essentially, I think 2 messages are, first one, you need a lot of time of immersion, or you need a lot of time with the language to become really good at it. And that's the case with anything if you want to be on a high level of skill. And the second thing is you should have immersion in order to learn a language, or you should have native material in order to learn the language, and not learn the language in order to be able to comprehend native material, if that makes sense. Japan is somewhat known for its unhealthy working culture, correct? Any experiences with questioning those working behaviors? Yeah, sometimes. So personally, I feel, so when I started, then I made a point of leaving early, and I always said, sorry, I'm leaving early. And my colleagues were like, oh, I think it's great. They thought it's great. And for the most time, I tried to work only 8 hours a day, the 8.5, and that's it. So for me, it's not so tough, but some of my colleagues really work too much, I think. So, and for nomikai, so going out and drinking a lot, that's not so much, at least not in my team, and I think also not in my company. So I don't have so much experience with that. I just wonder how they would react to it when you try to force a more efficient way. Yeah. It's going to be tough, I think. So generally, and you see it also in the Japanese language, directness is going to make it hard for you. So, for example, saying no directly, depending on how much used to working with international people this person is, might be causing you issues or not. So you have to maybe work around a little bit be patient, take your time. If you want to like make a hard cut and try something completely new in your company or so, that's not gonna work, I think. Yeah. For example, Japanese language, they don't say must directly usually, but they say if I wouldn't do that, that wouldn't work out. So it's very like if else or if-ish instead of very very clear and direct no or must. Why would you want to come to the USA? I'm doing anything to get out. It's not the promised land. It's like being on a reality TV show every day, and inside you scream and die a little more. That being said, that might be true, probably it's true, but also Japan is not the promised land, so keep that in mind. I mean, if you have problems in the US, then probably you're also going to have these problems here. Except if it's really, really tight, like you're being harassed by the police or something, maybe that's going to be different. But generally, if you have like personal issues or something, they will follow you. So if you sort out the issues in the US and you come here, then you won't have them. If you have them there, probably you will take them with you. But that being said, I've never been to the US, so I don't know. Maybe someday I will come and see. Do you use Suica card? What? In what places can it be used? I do use Pasmo actually. So Suica and Pasmo are like cashless payment cards. I use them mostly for commuting and for convenience stores. So you charge them once, usually for commute. So you do, when you enter the station, you do like put it somewhere, then it makes beep. And when you leave, then again, and then it calculates how much you have to pay and deducts it directly. You can also use your phone depending on what brand you have. So iOS does support this protocol. Most Android don't. Pixel devices do. And I use that usually. So, and you can also pay in some areas, for example, in the convenience store. Some supermarkets, some don't allow it because they have their own payment system. Generally in Japan, there's a lot of cashless payment going on. So I think there are like at least 10 providers right now. So you show a barcode or you scan an RFID reader or something with your phone. But still, it's very much a cash-based society. It's like a contrast. So having cash is the safe bet. That will make sure you can pay always. And so I have a friend who tries to use as little cash as he can, and sometimes he's at the restaurant and he asks, can I pay with card or with PayPay or Quick Pay or or Line Pay or whatever there is? And they say no. So then he has to get some cash from somewhere. Can you write in Japanese? No. I mean, yeah, it would take me some time. And usually, for example, if I write a company or so, because I want to film in their wherever it might be, what they have, then I write the script, write what I want to say to them, and then I show it to my wife, and then she takes the 3 sentences and makes it into 30 sentences, and then we send it. So I can write on the computer because I just have to type and know what I want to write. But then if you write, for example, kanji, so you see that? The Chinese characters, they have a stroke order, and it's not too hard to learn it, I think, the stroke order, so which order, like this, this. But it's absolutely not beautiful when I write, so I have to practice, obviously, to get better, but I don't practice because I'm so bad. That being said, I type most of the time, so it's not like the highest thing on my Japanese priority list. I burned out on remembering the kanji. I prefer wanikani instead. Yeah, I understand that. Indeed, I also did that. I burned out. I got like to 800 or so. And then when I started MIA, first of all, I was at home because of lockdown. I said, okay, if I don't do it now, I will never do it. And second, MIA actually doesn't do the whole thing. It does something called, what was it called? RRTK. What does the R stand for? I forgot. Anyway, it's not the whole 2,200. It's only 1,000. So the most frequently used ones. And it's not about the writing. It's only the readings. So this was quicker for me, and I could do it. Still, I invested like 2 to 2.5 hours a day for 39 days. Kanji is the hardest of the scripts. Yeah, I mean, I think actually kana is also pretty hard, katakana, because if you hear something in essentially katakana is for foreign words that have been loan words that came to Japanese. And if you hear a foreign word and then you want to move it into Japanese, then you have a certain way you think it should be written based on your own language background, but it might be totally different. So I think that's also pretty hard. But then, of course, kanji, yeah, it's especially so time intense, so intensive. So it takes so much time to learn all this because there's so many of these characters. So usually say like Joyo kanji is about 2,200, like 2,100 something. This will bring you to a level where you can do most of the things. But if you really want to get down to it, then you have like so this is the 2,200. Wait a second. Then there's another book. This has another 1,000. So then you get to do like, or is it 800? So then you get to like 3,000 characters. And these are mostly, or for the bigger part, these are 3,218 characters. So these for the bigger part are characters that you would see in names and so on, not in a newspaper usually. But if they write names, then you will see it. Yeah, that's great words in here. Hemorrhoids and so on. And sometimes I don't know, I even don't know the German word. I don't know what, so here's a gagat. So if you're German and you know what a gagat is, then let me know. It's a deeply black kind of coal, charcoal maybe, which is polishable, and that's why it's so famous to be used at ornaments. So things like that, that's what you would learn in the remaining 2,000 characters. And that's a lot, so it takes a lot of time, and being consistent with that and doing it every time again, every day, that's what's hard, I think. It's not like you have to be super clever, you just have to stick with it and do it again and do it again and do it again. And invest a lot of time. If getting a job in Japan, one of the more important words to learn is, yeah, buraku kigyo. That's correct. Yeah, I mean, definitely. So the black companies are the companies that essentially force their workers to do things to an extent that's probably not legal anymore. It's like overtime, like not clocking in properly and out properly, because it's essentially having unpaid work, not being allowed to take leave, not being allowed to take breaks, vacation, and so on. And then also harassment and things like that. Apple Pay for the world? Yes, maybe. I don't. I use Android, and I thought about getting into Apple, but it's too expensive. At least for me right now. This computer is a Mac right here. So I also use Final Cut. That's an editing software from Apple, but I don't have Apple devices other than that. How much is $1 in yen? About 100, maybe more right now. Let me check. 105. 105.94. Can you convert money while you're in Japan, or should you do it beforehand? Yeah, you can. Depends probably on what your country offers. For me, what was the cheapest was this company in Germany that offers international free transactions or free withdrawal from a credit card. So I would go to Japanese ATM, get money, like, I don't know, $2,000 or so, and then it would be free. And the exchange rate would be really close to what's the actual real exchange rate. And usually if you do it at the airport or so, it's a little pricey. That being said, I think the general rule, some people told me, I didn't verify it, is in the target country it will be cheaper than in your home country. Can we tell we don't like overworking during the interview, or is it mandatory to give our life for a job? Oh yeah, of course you can tell, but maybe they won't like it. But I would at least ask for the work culture and how it's overtime, and then maybe they will tell you, okay, yeah, IT, they don't do so much overtime, or they tell you like 20 hours is included, 40 hours is included or something. But I mean, I would tell them, because if they wouldn't take you because of that, then you wouldn't want to work there, right? You can use, even though you probably want to avoid sounding like you're not into working or not giving a lot, but don't be afraid to ask questions that go into this direction. You can use a Visa card in ATMs of the Western embassies, read 7-Eleven convenience stores. Yes, 7-Eleven convenient, also Post, Japan Post is also okay. I think Japan Post even accepts German bank cards. Never tried it, but a friend of mine did, I think successfully. What inspired you to start making videos about Japan? I had a blog, and this was about Japan and learning Japanese when I was still in Germany. And so let me take one more step back. I had a blog about development in my field and was successful back then. And then I left it alone for some time. I even made some money with that. And then I started this blog about Japan, because my wife came to me with me to Germany, and it was clear that Japan is a connection there. And I will go to Japan at least for some time. So I started this blog, wrote about things like how to use an onsen, how to use a toilet, which was also my first video later. And then it didn't go so well. So it wasn't as successful as my previous development blogs. So I thought, how can I promote this? And eventually I landed at YouTube. So I made this first video about Japanese toilets. Actually, I wanted to make a house tour because everybody loves that and gets lots of views usually. My wife said, no, privacy, don't do that. So I did just a toilet, which was also successful in the long run. And that's how I started. And then, yeah, also the beginning was slow, but then it picked up, and then I went from 2 weeks, one video every 2 weeks, to weekly for at least 3 months or so. And now it's like every 1.5 weeks again. Gagat is basically the German version of jet lag. I see. Thanks. Do you know 3 languages? Oh, and thank you. Yes. So I am native German. I speak English, as you can hear, and Japanese, and at an acceptable level. How difficult is it to get married to a Japanese person, considering paperwork and approval processes of both countries? So we got married twice. The first time in Germany, and this was a little bit cumbersome. So I had to get you have to get the Koseki Tohan, that's the register, where essentially they need a proof in Germany that your wife is not married, that she's marryable, because you can only be married to one person in Germany. And then this is in Japanese, so you have to get it from Japan, send it to Germany, then you have it, and then you have to get it translated officially by a person that's officially official translator of the Japanese language to German. This cost like $500, euros, like that. Yeah, it was a little pricey. I think this was the heaviest part. Then I had to get my paperwork and so on. We had to go somewhere, and then essentially a couple of questions that had been asked to my wife, I wasn't allowed to answer. So they want to make sure that she's actually willing to do that on her own. So they will ask in German only. So either she has to be able to speak German good enough, or there has to be a translator, which will be pricey again. So thankfully, my wife could manage. And then in Japan, we also needed some translation of the paperwork we got when we got married in Germany. So we didn't actually marry. We had another party, but we didn't get married again. We just had our German marriage registered in Japan. And for that, we had to translate again, but it was okay to do it by ourselves for some reason. And that was that. How difficult is it to get a driving license in Japan, motorcycle and car? Depends on where you're from. So I'm from Germany, and that's very easy. So if you have a German license, then you make an appointment. First, you get your license translated. If you have this translation, you can already drive for 1 year in Japan. And if you re-enter the country, you will get another year, and so on. So that's already a good thing. So you have this translation, and then you take the translation, your license, make an appointment at the driver's license center, and then you go there, and then you have to take eye test and wait for 2 hours, pay a little bit, like $40-$80-ish, I forgot. And then you get your license. If you're not a German, then it depends. So British people, Australian, Canadian, I think, and a couple of other countries will get it in the same process or similar. And then countries like US and others have to take a license test. So they don't have to take, I think, all the practice hours necessarily, but it's probably useful. And then they have to take a written test and a driving test, I think. And that's one, expensive, and two, it's not so easy to pass. But maybe it's a good thing because you will get used to driving on the left side. So it depends on where you're from. If you're from Germany or other fortunate countries, then it's very easy. What are some of the floors made of paper in Japan? Never heard of floors, and now of walls. So the walls are definitely like thick paper, I would say, like this thick. And for example, my mother-in-law's house, it's a wooden structure essentially for the biggest part. And then obviously you hear a lot. So, and there are also sliding doors, so they don't close as tight probably as than the other kind of doors. And yeah, you just hear a lot. But for floors, I think mostly they are not of paper because it would be a little dangerous. Of course, there are floors that are only wooden as well, depending on the type of building you have. Now in Tokyo and so on, the buildings get taller and taller, so it's more common to use like a concrete thing. Also, this one here is a concrete building. In Germany, for example, we have a lot of bricks and brick houses. That, for the biggest part, doesn't work out in Japan because of earthquakes. So bricks are very stiff, and then earthquake moves and the brick breaks, and that's it for the house. Danish license is just converted. Oh, great. Also the same. For someone who wishes to teach English in Japan, which place do you recommend to stay in? So, if you want to if you want to come to Japan to get a teaching job, then I would do my research. But most likely, you have the most opportunities in Tokyo because it's the largest city, and then second would be Osaka and so on. If it's about where you would like to be placed in order to have a good lifestyle with the money you get, in order to have an environment that you're feeling yourself being welcomed and enjoy, then it obviously depends on what you like. Personally, I like the countryside. So going somewhere there, like anywhere that's not one of the large cities, like Tokyo, maybe largest cities would be like Tokyo metropolitan area, Osaka, Nagoya, probably anywhere is fine. Even Fukuoka is big, it's like 1-ish million, I think. And Sapporo is also big, but it's very different, and I think it has a different vibe and more space, even though I've never been. But generally, the countryside, smaller cities. I think Nagano is very nice, but I'm biased. But then obviously, if you, for example, watch Abroad in Japan, he stayed in Yamagata for a long time. It's a prefecture in the north. So yeah, depends on what you want, I would say. This one, by the way, was given to me. It's water inside, not alcohol. This was given to me by my sister-in-law. So it has like all the different types of sushi in Japanese and English with pictures. So I don't know why she gave it to me. But first, I think that's a little bit like cliche, like foreigner wants sushi and and so on. But I really like it actually. It feels nice, and I've used it for 3 years or so now. I use it for everything, like water, juice, soft drinks. I don't drink coffee, but like milk-based drinks and anything. It's great. Let me know if you have any other questions. Tomorrow, I try again to take this, if the weather is nice, I try again to take the video with the GoPro going outside, taking you on a ride. This time we used the Gorilla Pod before I used another one. It's actually over there. I think I can use this in a way that doesn't move too much and then hopefully it works out. What is your biggest change in diet since moving to Japan besides rice at every meal? What do you miss most? Yeah, rice at every meal. That's a big one. When I came, especially when I was here, so I visited my wife for the first time in 2014 in the end of 2014, and then we traveled a lot, so it was okay. And I seriously thought there's no bad food in Japan, because even if it's not high level or so, I can't really identify if it's high class or not. So it's just like, okay, it's some food, but is it bad? I don't know. Until one of the last days, I went to a self-service fried something restaurant in Tokyo. It was really bad. Then I changed my opinion. And then when I came in April again, 2015, I stayed at my parents-in-law's house for 10 days and essentially ate what they gave me. It was always rice and fish, almost. And that was really tough for me. So if you're used to have like bread in the morning, then a hot meal for lunch, and then at dinner some bread and cheese or something again, and then all of a sudden you have warm meals 3 times a day. It's always rice, fish, soup or something. That was tough. And then now the biggest change in diet is probably much less heavy bread, like dark bread. I eat, almost only white bread, like toast and so on. That's what I would usually get in the supermarket. Dark bread is hard to get like there's a German bakery 25 minutes from here by train, but it's expensive. I bought like a little bread like this big for $9, $9 something yen. So it's not something I can do every day. I think that's the biggest change. So less bread and different color of bread. Similarly, what is your biggest change in lifestyle and what do you miss most from Europe? So it's not related to Japan necessarily, because I became a father soon after moving to Japan. This changed a lot. So I have to be much more responsible with my sleep now. So I have to get up in the morning. If I don't work, then I have to, on the weekends, then I have to get up to play with the kids. Otherwise, my wife will get angry. So that's a big change. And then I practiced a lot of Aikido when I was, so martial arts in Germany, like 4 or 5 times a week. That's not working out right now. 1, again, because of the kids, and 2, because of Corona. I hoped I can go back eventually. My wife said, yeah, you can do like 3 times a week. But I think that's not true, at least not anymore. So if I would be out like 3 evenings a week, then she would be, I think, not happy. So maybe I can, if we can, in my company, stay working from home, then I can somehow manage to go in the morning and don't stay too long outside in the evening. Do you still have your software development blog? If it's still up, what is it called? It's called Droid blog. Droid as an Android -blog.net. And I haven't updated it in 3 or 4 years. So I think it's still up, but it's not maintained. What are some laws we should be aware of when we go to Japan? I think the biggest one is you drive on the other side of the road, depending on where you're from. So not on the right side. Another thing is you have to carry your passport. So if police checks you and you don't have it, might not be too fun. If you are a resident, then you have to carry your residence card. There are a couple of stupid laws in Japan, or like unexpected laws, such as you cannot drive your bicycle on the sidewalk, but everybody does that, and things like that. But generally, personally, I never had issues or interactions at all, almost no interactions with police. Only one time they stopped a car I was in because the person next to the driver, this person seemed like she wasn't wearing the belt, but she had her arms like on top of it, and they accepted that and let us go. What are some laws? I just read that. Are food items in the convenience stores expensive? For me, not as expensive as I would expect it to be. For example, in Germany, so convenience stores are, as the name says, convenient. So it's not about low price. It's not low cost store. It's convenience store. So it's not cheap, but it's also not super pricey, I think. So in Germany, usually if you have something that's opened around the clock and convenience, then usually, depending on where you are, in my area, this would be a gas station, and they are super pricey. Or something like at a train station, that's also super pricey. But convenience stores are kind of, I would say, reasonable. So you can get like a Coke if you want that for $1 or so, or sandwiches for $2.50. So it's not too bad. Also, if you many people get lunch and so on at convenience stores for like $5 ish. It's not too bad, and it's also not too bad for the quality you get. I think, especially for people come from the US that also have 7-Eleven and so on, it's surprisingly good. Have you become comfortable with the bland, uninspired reaction YouTube style of Japanese TV? Yeah. I mean, sometimes I think it's fun. It's foreign for me, but it's also fun. Like Japanese TV usually always have some head in the corner of some talent, they call it, because they have a contract with them and they have to fill their screen time. Yes, screen time, but they all don't always say something intelligent, so they just put them here into the corner and then they react to things. So something is happening, they show a video, and in the corner there's somebody saying "oh" or something, and they always have sound of the audience. It goes like hey, hey, like essentially telling the viewers what to feel, or that's something great or something. And food is always good, so they eat it and say, wow, it's so great. They have dokiri, which is like pranks. And one time a guy was sent somewhere and they gave him something really bad and said it's the speciality of this place. And then he was like eating it, so, and he ate it and looked to the person and said, oh my, so it's delicious. So they never say, oh my God, I can't eat that or something like that. Never happened ever. Yeah, it's pretty fun. And there's sometimes they have, I don't watch it too often though. So maybe if I had to watch it every day, then I wouldn't be too happy. But there are some exceptions that are pretty nice. Like once or twice a year, they have something like a Undo Unchi Olympics. So people that are absolutely not talented or any sport, like don't do any sports in any way. They do like jumping and a lot of Olympic sports categories. So that's pretty fun. But yeah, Japanese TV, you have to like it, I guess, or you get used to it. It's there's some gems in there, but many parts are not so great. I don't like so much the dramas. So well, it's not a show, but with actors and so on. If you know what I mean. Usually, I think like, oh no, that's that. But my wife does. She often watches things like that. I wonder if you also have to have a license with you when you're out running doing sports. You mean driver's license? No, you mean like residence card, right? You have to, yes, but I don't do that. Hey, there are no police people around. There's like a koban, that's like a police box there inside just to be there. But then, yeah, I won't get checked, and they don't do that. And if they would, then I would say I live over there. Let's go there. I think it should be okay. Or I just say I don't speak Japanese, and then they're confused and let me go. I have actually a colleague of mine. He's Indian. He got checked quite a lot, and then he just says, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't speak Japanese." And then usually they stop. Netflix and Amazon Prime saves my life. Yeah. And you can also switch that to Japanese. At least Netflix. I don't know about Amazon. And then you get all the programs that are available in Japanese, and then you can watch in Japanese and improve your Japanese. Maybe turn on Japanese subtitles, then you can also improve your reading. That's what I do. Thank you so much for the information. You are really kind. Good night. Have a good night too. Thank you. I've heard that when you get married to a Japanese girl, you're supposed to give control of all your money, salary, and stuff to the spouse. Is it true or a fallacy? That's true. It's also what I do. I think if I would like to do that, if I wouldn't like to do that, it would be okay. But I don't care too much about money, so and not having to care about it is really, really relaxing for me. Especially taxes. I really don't like filling out my taxes. So right here, it's just like she gives me an amount of money every month. It's like here, and then I say, okay, great. Now I buy new gear, and then she takes care of the rest. And that's usually how it is. So the husband gets like a pocket money or something, and then he goes to work, and with this money he can go drinking or whatever he wants to do, and then the woman takes care of the rest. However, I also know a couple of couples where it's the opposite. So the woman doesn't even know how much the husband earns. Is the capsule hotels good to sleep in? I only have been to one once. In hindsight, I think it was nice, a good experience, but back then I thought it was awful, at least in the beginning. So we went from Nagano City to Tokyo, and instead of like 4 hours, it took 7 hours, so much longer than expected. I was really tired, and I thought like, okay, just having a room now for myself would be nice. And we went to we said, okay, if we tried the capsule hotels, we take the cheapest ones. It was like Nissan and 2,000 yen, $20 a night, and it was yeah. It was pretty old, I guess. So it smelled a little funny. There were pretty old people in there. And the capsules itself, they had like this old CRT monitors, TVs, like, not the flat ones, but the big ones. And even for that, you would have to pay extra. But in the end, it's nice. I started writing an article about it, but never finished. Might finish it these days, if you're interested in that. So that's my experience. I was invited to another capsule hotel called Zen Capsule Hotel. They make it, I think it's almost not a capsule anymore. It seemed to be pretty nice. They asked me to come and film, but I said no. I said no because a lot of other people already did that for exactly this capsule hotel company. I saw there are so many Japanese TV shows that are completely about food. Yes, definitely. Yes, true. And it's always, so that's something I don't like a lot is Japanese curry. So their curry is totally different from what I know is Indian curry, or like curry in general. And I don't like it a lot, and it gives me issues with my stomach. But this happens. Apparently, it's the star of the half or so of these food TV shows, and it's always great as all the other food. I always say it tastes fantastic. And if they show how it's made and so on, they put it over the rice and so on. Wow, it looks so great. I want to eat that. That's what they say. I don't. Even news programs have background music to tell the audience how to feel. I almost don't watch it. There's one guy, it's an American guy called Atsugiri Jason. So I think it's a play of words with Atsugiri bacon. So thickly sliced bacon, and his name is Jason. So, and he makes essentially jokes about kanji, so Japanese characters, on how they don't make sense. And he once was in a news show. I saw that. That's what I remember. But usually I don't watch the news here in Japanese. Especially now, because it's always like, there's a lot of fear mongering about Corona. So they're like, oh yeah, no, this many people have been infected and this people died and this and that, and this happened, and if you have these symptoms, then maybe you have Corona and so on. And I think this doesn't change a lot for me, and it doesn't make me feel good or better. So I try to avoid it right now. Yes. Yoo-hoo. Manseri Y. Good to have you here. What are some restaurants you recommend for newcomers? Oh, depends on what you like. Again, I mean, can't go wrong with sushi, I guess. Wouldn't go to the touristy areas if you can avoid it, so it's expensive as shit. Can you say that? I don't get ads on this video. It's expensive as hell. So if you go to Kabukicho, so don't do that. Go somewhere outside or so, and then pay a little more and get much more. So yeah, I can compared to where I'm from, you can get really great sushi in Japan. And yeah, like I said, depends what you want. So ramen would be another great one. Maybe get a local recommendation if you know somebody like me or Japanese. Yeah, it depends on what you want. So if you tell me what you like, then I might be able to tell you some places. Part of Japanese culture, women runs the house and economy, making the husband completely free to serve his lord or company. Yes, essentially that's how I mean, yeah, that's traditionally. Also now I think that's how most of the households are organized still. What's the best time to visit Japan? Not summer. Summer is super hot and humid. Don't come here in summer. So right now it's not fun to be outside. And if it's not fun to be outside, then probably as a tourist you don't get the most out of it. And other than that, anytime is fine. I think autumn is super great. So end of September-ish, beginning of October, even end of October, depending on where you are, when the colors of the trees change, the foliage, and so on. That's super great. And it's still pretty nice. It's still like 20-ish degrees Celsius. So I think I went out in shorts in Nagano. Was it middle of October so once? So pretty nice still. And then I also like May-ish, spring. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Late April, beginning of May, until the end of May, essentially. I think these are two great times. And then it depends on what you want to do. If you like winter sports, then also February-ish is also nice. Japanese curry was pretty much the only food I didn't like when I was the last year. Yes, exactly. Japanese curry. Yeah, my wife likes it a lot, unfortunately, and sometimes I eat it, and it's not. Sometimes I even say it tastes nice because it does then, but then afterwards I feel awful physically. Oh yeah, the sakura flower blooming period. I think between March and April is a nice time to visit. Yes, that's correct. However, beware the tourists. So you will not be alone and will be more pricey. Then again, if you go to the north, it's not as known to many tourists. You might get better deals and so on. Yeah. And I love Sakura. It's so great. So when I've been here, I've been in 2015 and it was like rainy and still not perfectly open. So I thought, yeah, kind of okay. And then we moved in 2016 and I experienced it, like completely experienced it the first time in 2017. And it was so great. I thought like, yeah, we have cherry blossoms in Germany as well, but it's completely different. They're so great because everywhere it's like clouds of cherry blossoms. It's really great. I love it. And also what comes after because it already the climate is changing a little bit, temperature is changing. You feel that the spring is coming, and then you have this. Oof, all of a sudden, all the trees start to blossom, and all the people go outside and take their family or friends, and they eat and drink and have picnic underneath the cherry trees. It's really nice, and they're everywhere. Like you go to a castle or so on, everywhere cherry trees. I go to work, cherry trees. That's so nice. Japanese curry is amazing. Okay, however, the dishes with cow stomach makes me almost vomit. Yeah, there has a hormone, like intestines and so on. I ate it once. I thought, that's funny. I asked my wife, what is it? Then I never ate it again. But I guess it's mostly mental. Like, you can train yourself to like it. Just like natto, if you know that. Fermented soybeans. I'm almost done with my water. So let me know some more questions. Have a good day too, Vishak. Hope to see you again. Take care. Japanese scripts unique in different language in Japan. What scripts? I don't know if it's a typo or if I don't know the English word. Let me check that. Seal script. Seal Scripts Research Institute. Is that it? Okay, let's jump to the next question. Maybe Jacob, you can let me know what scripts are because I don't. What is the biggest earthquake you've experienced? I was introduced to Japan with a 7.0 earthquake 4 days after arriving. The biggest one was 6.5. I was in Nagano, as I mentioned a couple of times before, in late 2014, and then was one of the few big earthquakes in Nagano, and was 6.5, quite close to us, I think. We just arrived from a trip to my parents-in-law's house, got out of the car, and then started shaking. I heard like the voices of like the blinds slapping, and I thought somebody's closing them or something, and then everybody's doing that. And then my girlfriend came over, back then girlfriend came over to me, and she was like shaking. Like, oh, I see. And then there's a very big and famous temple in Nagano called Zenkoji, and all the things were like fallen over and so on and broken. That was my biggest earthquake experience. Okay. Are the different Japanese scrolls unique to certain places in Japan? You mean like for? I would guess so. I think. I mean, depends on like. I guess at least of like if different areas have different history and so on, there might be different scrolls or like the paintings showing the history and so on, like battles and things like that. And then another thing I connect with scrolls is Buddhism, so they have like the prayer scrolls. I guess there might be some differences, especially depending on the sect, but not necessarily on the place, on the area. But I really cannot answer. I cannot give a conclusive, great answer to that. I had to cancel my trip to Japan this year. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I was thinking of moving that trip to December or January, but I guess it won't happen either. I guess so too, unfortunately. So some of my colleagues that left the country will be allowed to come back soon, I think, or are allowed now. Like if you have some previously it was reasons like you have a spouse here or so. So another guy whom I made a YouTube video with recently, he just came to Japan because his wife is here as well. So he was allowed entry without a visa. But yeah, as a tourist, it's gonna be hard right now. Probably also December, January. Then again, they try to do the Olympics next year, so don't know how. Currently, I don't see that happening. But I guess they will change something, some restrictions, because they will push for the Olympics. What do you think YouTubers glorify too much that very quickly becomes normal or even disappointing about Japan? That's difficult. I don't watch too many Japan-based YouTube. I mean, I watch maybe 2 or 3. I watched Abroad in Japan, 4 maybe. I watched Abroad in Japan, I watched Dogen, but he's mostly like, he makes sketches, so maybe not too close. I watched Dave Trippin, who's a friend of mine, and I watched currently Hannah. And for the biggest part, I think she also tries to not glorify things. It was too glorified. I'm not sure. I think a common misperception is everything is anime, but that's just probably similar to your home country. Maybe people like it a little more and it's more common to read as an adult, but other than that, it's not too much. Also, obviously not everybody's a samurai and things like that, even though it's something that people like showing. So there are a couple of topics that work really well when it comes to views. One is house tours, one is capsule hotels, one is love hotels, and then samurai things. And then maybe things with women, like especially if they don't wear a lot. And anything around that is usually overrepresented on YouTube. So I don't know a lot of people in Japan that regularly sleep in a capsule hotel. I don't know a lot of people that regularly go to a love hotel. Depends also on my age, of course. Because in my age, most people have an apartment and don't need to go anywhere to do love. What becomes normal in Japan? It would be hard. Now, I probably would have to watch somebody that just came to Japan a couple of months ago to see what they think is really great and what became normal to me. But probably there are a lot of things. So usually if people visit me, then there are things like all the vending machines everywhere. They are pretty normal to me, but pretty non-normal to them. All the convenience stores everywhere. Then the stores are open all the time. That everybody's so polite. Maybe that's one, because they are polite, but there's a reason, like cultural reason for that. It's not because they all like you. Maybe that's one where we would be okay. And also, it's really hard to differentiate for people that don't live here or don't speak Japanese to some degree, to differentiate when people are actually polite and when they are not. And when they are not and when they are impolite. I don't think anyone asked, but how's your day and night? Yeah, nobody asked so far. Day, it was a little bit tired. I was tired. I think I didn't sleep enough. And it's so hot. So this weather, usually during daytime, it's hard for me to focus because my body is dealing with the heat all the time and the humidity, which I'm not used to from my first 29 years of life. So that's pretty tough for me usually. And then if the evening comes like now, then I can get stuff done. I can make live streams, edit videos and so on. So it was a little bit tough, but then it was still nice. Had some time with my children, my family. So and now I'm here. And after this, maybe I might be able to finish editing another video. So kind of okay day. Thanks for asking, Jacob. Anime is over, it's exaggerated. Don't tell this to the wrong person. So I guess you like what you like, and I mean, yeah, like in the context of what I said, yes, it is. Yes, it is. I think. I mean, you can definitely get your dose of anime or manga and what's connected to that in Japan, but not everybody has a waifu or something like that. Face it. Glad you're here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm slowly running out of battery. So let's say 3 more questions, if you have any, and then maybe call it a day for today. Like I said in the beginning, so maybe next week will be from Nagano, and then I will have to go outside. And in order to have some okay light, I would have to go a little earlier, probably around 4 p.m. It would be 9 a.m. in Central Europe. So I will let you know, but just so that you know already. And if you don't have any questions, then maybe I can talk about something else. No, I can't. I don't have any ideas. Oh, yeah. Mentioning about Japanese before, I also did this book. I also showed it before. That's like very essential, very basic. I actually never opened it. I got an Anki deck, flashcard deck based on this. And what's good about this book is it always has sentences that only contain one new word for you. So it's sentences and one new word. So it does all the work for you with finding things, with finding sentences that only contain this n+1 word. So you know everything, and only the word exactly the one word you want to know is new. If it's more, like 2, 3, that's going to be really tough for you. I had a couple of this way back, and it was not easy. I always like didn't know one word or so about the other two. So if you can, if you're just starting, then this might be a nice series for you. Then just subscribe to you. Thank you, Sid. That's so kind of you. I hope you will like it. I have a couple of videos planned. One I mentioned before is just driving a little bit around in my area with the bicycle and putting the action cam in the front and essentially giving you an ASMR or commented drive for like 10-20 minutes. Because I think it might be quite new for you, even though it's just a normal neighborhood. And it might also be something most people don't show you. And then, of course, there are other things coming, such as the Genius Japan, like all the convenient things they do, such as vending machines, convenience stores, and many more. So thanks again. That's it. What hotel do you recommend for people going to Japan for the first time? I also have a video about that coming up. I did an itinerary for 7 days. So for the first night, I would recommend a cheap hotel, like in the Ueno area, around Ueno in Tokyo. Usually it's cheap-ish. Yeah, you get like 2,000-3,000 yen maybe. Because the first night you won't be able to appreciate a lot. You will be jet-lagged, you have to sleep, get into your new rhythm. And then after that, maybe go somewhere else. And ideally, maybe not even in Tokyo, but outside and start exploring immediately. And then it depends. Personally, a chain I like is, what was it called again? Wait, so let me think. I have to Google it. 1 second. Yeah, Dormi Inn. Dormi Inn. I like that ones. For example, in Nagano, where I sometimes am, it's next to the station and it's pretty nice, reasonable priced, especially now. And on the floor, on the roof, they have an outside bath, onsen hot spring actually. So they pump the water up. So that's super nice. Thanks for watching my old videos, Sid. Is Japan more expensive than Germany, or have you already answered that question? I think so some time ago, but I will repeat it. It's depends. So things like there are things that are surprisingly expensive, like fruit, vegetables and fruits. Germany is almost ridiculously cheap in that regards. Japan is ridiculously expensive in my eyes. Then cost of like rent in my area is like Yokohama is about the same to my German hometown Munich. But obviously it depends on where you are. And then overall cost of living might be about the same, maybe a little more pricey in Japan, again, compared to Munich, which is a more pricey area of Germany. Thanks, Sid. He said I make nice content. I have the N4 version of that book. I'd be careful. There are some English translation typos. Yeah, I think maybe. Yeah, like I said, I never used this book. I only the creator of MIA, this approach to language learning I use, made a flash deck for this, but he only hands it out to persons that actually purchase it. So that's why I purchased it. Then I got the flashcard deck, and that's the only reason. I was considering getting the M4 version. Yeah, but I won't. Love Hotel is lit. Thanks, Sid. I'm a network administrator. Can I get a job in Japan? Probably. I mean, obviously, depending on a lot of things, like your qualifications, such as degree or work experience, your Japanese abilities, and so on. My image is, I think, as a network administrator, you have to be able to speak Japanese to a lot of people potentially, a lot of stakeholders, so might be good to have that. But generally, IT market is a good market right now in Japan. CCIE certified. Okay. I don't know what CCIE is. So I'm in IT, but I'm in software. So I see. Oh, I see. Yeah, again, it depends. I think I don't know exactly the demand, but generally IT is good in Japan. So it might very well be possible for you to get a job here. Okay, then. I think we can call it a day for now. Thank you all so much for joining today. It was my pleasure, as always. Next time, like I said, it might be a little earlier, but I try to do it again in 1 week on Sunday. So thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.